It's man like Dan. Come on! Welcome to Melanated Proud. Today we got a special guest. But before we introduce her, just make sure you like that button, subscribe, because obviously I know you guys are enjoying it. And please drop some comments in the comment section, because I'm tired of these phone calls, innit? Write it in the comments, innit? Because we know that you're feeling the stories, yeah? So this lovely lady, she's very inspirational. She's doing a lot in the community. She's using her life to really just bless other people and just really just give people hope. She's an international speaker. She's a founder of Mindmapper UK. She's a strategic and innovation lead. Like, so many things in it. Like, she's just doing everything in it. I can't sum you up in a sentence in it. But obviously, let me just call you a name in it, because her name is Zeenat Wamithi. Come on! Did I say right?
You said it right. That was perfect. Oh my goodness! Can I take you everywhere? That intro.
Listen,
solid.
You need to hire me, innit?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness.
As you can see, orange is the new black, innit? So obviously, if you want to book her for anything, come on. I'm an agent now, innit? So I'll take the fees, innit? But we're going to go straight into this, innit? Yeah? It's going to be a nice deep one, innit? And so I'll say the main theme of this conversation is all about redefining vulnerability into strength, yeah?
Which I feel like has now become my hashtag, but I guess we'll get into it.
Like, you use that better, isn't it? But I thought I'd use that as well, because that's who you are, innit? So what I want to begin with is I want to know what you would say has been your biggest challenge in life.
My biggest challenge in life. That's a good question. I feel like the reason it's a good question is because you said, like, what's been your biggest challenge? Mm-hmm. I think it's still my biggest challenge. Yeah. Like, it's an ongoing thing. And I feel like for a lot of people that have formal diagnosis, it's your biggest challenge. So do you want me to, like, go into it, like, from the beginning?
This is your life, man. This is your life. I'm not here to force you, innit? But
for everyone listening, and that can see me, I look very, very put together. You know, everyone will assume that I'm really confident and I'm really outgoing, and you know, especially with the work that I do, you're like super inspirational, Meg, and things like that. But I think what people don't see are like the hidden disabilities, and particularly when it comes to mental illness. So I'm formally diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, social anxiety, depression, paranoia, and I'm also a recovering anorexic. So you know, I've been battling a lot of these diagnoses since I was 13. So, you know, for me, my biggest challenge was being able to recognize that it wasn't all in my head. You know, something like mental health and mental illness isn't spoken enough about in our community. And being this young 13-year-old where, you know, I couldn't get out of bed, or I felt, you know, super panicky just to leave my house, or I could see where I'd gone from being this like really confident, outgoing, bubbly young girl who was super ambitious to literally like not being able to leave my house and not wanting to do anything. For me, I was like, it's just all in my head. So then, you know, years later to where I am now, to have like an actual name, a label, whilst others may not like that label, for me, it gives me grounding. It reminds me that, okay, there is something wrong with me, but we can manage it. You know, like we move, we can do something about it. So I would say my biggest challenge has definitely been navigating being a young Black woman with a mental illness, and being able to communicate that to myself and
comes with a lot of pressure, innit?
Yeah, because obviously you have to remind yourself that you're still worthy. Like, as much as you may not work in the same way as other people, you still can access and can live a life as full and as exciting as anyone else. And then I think it's also communicating that to others, particularly like your loved ones or even people that don't get you. Like for me, it almost always feels like a switch, and at any point that switch could go off, where on a day like this where I feel like, you know, I was not borderline switch, but I was like, bro, I have to get out of my house and I've got to see people and I've got to be really vulnerable today. The switch could have gone off where I'm like, I genuinely cannot do anything. I'm not going to leave this house. And then there's other days where you're on cloud nine. So being able to be really transparent and honest with the people around you is so tough, because no one likes to talk about their feelings, you know. No one likes to talk about the things that make them feel weak. No one likes to talk about, you know, the bits that are not shiny. In a world where we live, where social media allows you to glorify aspects of your life, something like mental illness or your vulnerabilities or some of your trauma is the least thing that you want to bring out. So with a mental illness where, you know, it affects your day to day, from how you think, what you feel, how you navigate your relationships, what you do, you have to be so honest. So for me, when you ask me kind of what my biggest challenge is, it's definitely that, and being patient enough with myself to understand that, you know, I'm doing pretty good. Despite all of that nonsense and all of the things that have happened, doing pretty good.
You're doing more than pretty good. Like, because, the reason why I said what's been your biggest challenge, and you said it's still a challenge, is that people sometimes have the assumption that it just goes away, innit?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's different for everyone, innit? And like, what makes me rate you more and more is the fact that you are fighting. Yeah. And fighting is not easy.
No.
It doesn't mean you don't feel pain at times. There's struggle in it. But what keeps you going? That is resilience, innit? That's mentality. Like, you're still thriving, even though, like I said, you have the human experience in it, but it's easy to give up in it. And what you're doing is amazing. And you're inspirational, inspiring me right now, innit? Like, I'm feeling it. So thank you for coming on to be vulnerable again, innit? Because it's not easy. Not even just in mental health, just in general, like, being vulnerable is not easy.
Yeah.
A lot of people hide things. And what you're doing, you're even changing the narrative in itself. Like, everyone wants to put on this facade, innit? And I'm not saying talk about the problems with everyone. Like,
No,
not everyone needs to know, innit?
Not everyone does.
To know.
No, you're
But
right.
You're speaking about your difficulties for a reason, innit? To help.
Yeah.
Not for attention, not for anything else, just to help, innit?
Yeah. No, and that's a big thing.
Yeah.
I think what you just said around kind of sharing that, I think that's why particularly...
On the mic.
No, don't worry. Why? One of the main reasons why I feel like when I created my TikTok was around like stripping everything back. I feel like when you see me out and about, again, that it's so easy to just assume that like everything's fine, and you know, when you talk about mental illness and you talk about, you know, vulnerability and going through breakdowns and stuff like that, no one ever really documents it. It's the same as like, you know, when you see the PTs in the gym and they're like, yeah, I've been going to the gym. Yeah, and you're like, they've been going to the gym for 3 years. Oh yeah, let me see the 3 years. Like, I want to see where you first went to the gym and you hated it and you left. Like, I want to see the process. So for me, I was like, okay, one of the things that's always been a really big challenge for me, and I think for a lot of people, just growing up, just understanding the highs and the lows, is often everyone only just shows their highs. And I'm not saying now we need to just be crying on the screen, but I think there's a level of authenticity that needs to come out. So for me, when I started picking up my camera and creating content, I was like, I just want to be able to be my most authentic self. So I was like, those sides that people often don't want to show, I was like, I'm going to show. And I was just like, I really partnered with God and trusted in, if I remove some of this shield, it will allow more people to recognize that wherever they are, like, God can partner with them, but also that by being vulnerable, there is so much strength. Like, I've never felt more confident as when I'm putting myself out there, bonnet and all, coming out of bed, and like, it's taken me hours to get things done, and being able to connect with millions of people across the world who are also experiencing the same thing. You know, some of our biggest challenges in life is assuming that things only happen to you. Like, you have a very unique experience, and not saying that your experience isn't unique, but there is at least one person somewhere in the world that is going through the exact same thing as you. And that is so beautiful, and it should be calming, because you can recognize that if they're going through it and they're still alive, then this is not going to kill you. Like, it can only get better from here. And I think something that one of my friends always says, and I feel like in this season of where my life is, I'm resting on it, is this too shall pass. So when I have episodes, or, you know, those times where you're like, for instance, like, even for you, like those days where you're like, I love doing what I'm doing, but like, you feel stagnant, this too shall pass. Like, if life was supposed to stay the same, we wouldn't have seasons. And I think, not that I'm a wishy-washy person, but I always try and ground myself in things that I can see, like, logically. And for me, I always remind myself that in these seasons, if I was meant to remain unchanged and meant to stay the same, and I was just supposed to be like this, okay, then why do we have all of the different seasons? Like, even the weather changes, therefore I need to change as well, and I'm allowed to go and undergo some of those seasons and those changes. So yeah, I think being open, obviously I know it helps others, but it really helps me, especially with social anxiety, the more I'm open, the more I put things out, I'm like, okay then,
Yeah.
like this is good. Like I'm conquering those fears. So like even today, us being on here, I was bricking it because I was thinking, gosh, like I've got to leave my house. Like I'm gonna be having to have a really tough conversation today. Like trembling. You can even see now. Like I'm very open about it, but I've done it now, and I'm like, regardless of how this conversation goes, or how this week goes, or how this day goes, I've just done something that scared me. And I've done it, and I'm alive, and I'm really proud of that. And it's like those moments, like finding the small things. To someone else this won't even matter, but to me, with someone who's got like extreme social anxiety, I'm out my house and I'm talking to you, and I'm proud of that.
Fire, fire, fire! Hey, if I was Charlie yourself, I would have been bim, 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 but obviously I ain't got the gadgets here.
Reload
Reload that,
it.
but honestly, that's powerful. That's powerful. Wow. Honestly, I read that a lot, man. Was seasons.
Yeah.
And again, I know I've used this analogy before, innit? But in terms of like a plant, think about it, a seed has to go underground, innit?
Yeah.
Like, has to die.
Yeah.
And you don't know when that seed's gonna come out of the ground into like a plant, but it's there over a long period of time. But you still got to keep watering that seed
Absolutely.
over and over again.
Yeah.
It might grow, and as it does grow, it hasn't bear fruit yet.
No.
It keeps growing.
Exactly.
And in the right season,
that's when
then
it
it'll bear
starts to
fruit.
flourish. Yeah.
So like, you don't know what's gonna happen, and there's a season for everything, and a season for happiness, joy, grieving, everything.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's just shaping your character.
Yeah.
It's developing thick skin. Let's say if you didn't have any of these difficulties that you faced in life, innit? Yes, to you might think it might be a smoother life, but you wouldn't have the fire that you got now.
No.
You wouldn't be who you are now. When you speak, it wouldn't hit the same. Every
That's true.
sentence you're saying is banging, like just in my ear. You wouldn't have that fire. You wouldn't have that edge.
No.
If you didn't have that experience.
And I hate that we say this though, and I know we've got to have a conversation about this because I really hate it. And I don't know if it's just the believers in us and stuff, but I really hate when we're like, you have to go through things to get through things and like turning your pain into purpose. Obviously, when you're out on the other end, you hear it. You know, you can really see it, and you're like, you know, I'm really grateful for that to happen.
Yeah.
But when you're in the trenches, I'm sorry, when someone's like, you know, it's going to all be worth it, it'll all work out, you're just thinking, no, it's not, because I can't see this. Like, I literally cannot see a way out. And I think not to be that person now, but also to challenge what we deem to be resilience. Like, I really don't like the word resilience. So even when you brought us thinking, oh, here we go. And like, even when we're at work, like everyone knows, like as part of my research and stuff, like we talk about healthy resilience. So the natural conception of resilience is that you do what you need to do and you push through. Like, in short, it's literally like there's things going on, but we move. Like, even in our term, when we say we move, that is literally what I guess we understand as resilience, but that's not good. Because actually you're not processing, you're not processing what you're actually going through. You're not taking enough time to allow yourself to feel whatever it is that you need to feel. And also you're using unhealthy coping mechanisms where actually things like, oh, we move and powering through and just you're resilient, you get through it. That's what leads to burnout. This is what leads to a breakdown. And I think for a long time for me, I don't know if it's just because of being like black and African, we generally go through things, and you know, that's like top upper lip, and you're stiff and you're strong. That word strong around like things do happen, but we move forward. Like, I know you'll probably remember, like, even when family members and things pass in our household, like you'll see people grieve for literally like a day, and then it's like, okay, we need to start making organizations around whether we send things home or whatever. Like, we don't allow ourselves to be present in that period. So for me, when we talk about resilience, one thing that I always try and challenge is sometimes resilience is also being able to take a step back and also allow yourself to crumble. You know, when we talk about seeds and things, and when we think about our lives, I feel like I'm definitely going through a period of metamorphosis where I'm like shifting and stuff like that. That period is ugly, right? We don't necessarily see what goes on underneath the dirt with that seed. And I think that's what happens with a lot of people. And if you think about your mind as that seed, there's so much going on, like obviously turmoil and things like that. But if you were to just say, yep, and you speed the process up, it wouldn't grow the way it needs to. So by healthy resilience, it's actually allowing yourself to feel everything.
100%.
And if that means that you break down and you have to become almost like crushed into the ground to be remolded again. I think that's what healthy resilience is about. And for me, I'm a strong advocate of, if you need to take a couple of days off, a week or whatever, to literally do nothing, or to break down, whether that is to cry, to feel depressed, to feel overwhelmed, and you sit in that. There's nothing as uncomfortable as sitting in it. And I almost see healing as like if you see a swan on water. So I'm an analogy babe. You'll see me with so many. And I remember one of my really, really good friends told me about this when I was going through a really tough time. I think it was in like 2020 during COVID. And he was like, Meg, you do realise when you see swans, they look so beautiful and elegant, right? And they just glide through the water. But what we don't see underneath the surface is they're kicking like mad. As in order to look elegant and beautiful and to glide across the water, they are having to put in so much work. There are a lot of things in your life which will look graceful on the surface because that's only what people see. But the work that has to be put into it is what's going to change it. And 100%. That's where the hard work actually comes in. So ever since I know about that analogy, like anytime I know that I'm going through something or that I know things are a little bit more difficult, I'm like, you've got to put in the work, Meg, because that's the only way that you're going to come up on top and you're going to be able to float properly.
No, you're right, man. I honestly feel like sometimes pushing on, that's even a facade. Like, the hardest thing to do sometimes is to actually sit down and think with your thoughts, or sit with your thoughts. So what you're saying is so spot on.
Yeah.
Because those thoughts, those feelings, sometimes they don't go away until you actually deal with it. Yeah. And sometimes it means things got to get worse. And even in that breaking period, you are being strengthened. But like you said, you got to be real with yourself as well. You really got to be real with yourself. So yeah, you're right, man. You're right. I hear it.
That part about things need to get worse is, I hate it because, like, you know, sometimes when you're like, I'm already struggling, and then something else comes and you're like, really? Yeah. Really?
But it's a fact that sometimes that's the case. It's not something that anyone's happy with, innit? But my point is, like I said, some things are battles for life. Yeah. Sometimes that's just like your portion, innit? And this is you. So I feel like because some people don't have certain battles, they can't necessarily relate in it, and so that's where maybe sometimes it can be a bit dismissive, like oh yeah, just get over it, as time goes by, boom. But no, like sometimes this is actually you for life, innit? Like, and you've just got to keep persisting in it. So it's also knowing that sometimes you actually can't even like confide in some other people. That's just a sad thing, because they might not understand, as you said. And so when you do find other people that might be going through the same things as you, I feel like that is where it's beautiful to sometimes share your experiences and be vulnerable. Yeah. And not suffer in silence. Yeah. So what I want to ask you now is, like, how would you say you dealt with, or you deal with those challenges on a, it could be day-to-day basis or on a periodic basis, it's up to you. But like, how do you deal with it?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I'm going to come back to that question, but you mentioned something around like you can't share with everyone. And I feel like that actually relates a lot to one of my other biggest challenges, which has been like, over the last like sort of like 10, like 15 years, I've been trying to navigate who to share with. Like, you know, I suffered in silence for about 7 years. Like, no one really knew about my diagnosis or anything. And like, as much as we're really open to talk about things, not everyone is ready to receive what you're going to share. And it's a really tough thing to have to sit with, because you're like, especially when it comes from the people that you care about the most, and you really want them to be able to help and support you, and they should also be the people that you can be your most bare and naked with. And then when it gets to those situations where you're like, okay, I feel confident enough to share and open up, and then the response is like, yikes, and you're wishing, like, you know those cartoons where you cut out the hole, and you jump in. I've definitely had my few share of those. And I know, like, one of the biggest challenges that people always say is like, well, you know, what if you open up and they don't care? What if you open up and they dismiss it? What if you open up and they say they can't help you? And it's really tough, but I want to like encourage anyone that, for all those people that weren't great at listening or dismissed it the first time you open up or made you regret being vulnerable, there are tens to hundreds of people that will be the complete opposite, that will remind you that actually what you did was amazing, that actually that they're there to support you, that they will ride with you. And I think that's what always gives me hope. Even now, like, I remind myself that the only person that can stigmatize what I'm going through is myself. Really and truly, it's myself. Because if I'm comfortable and proud in what I've been through, then it doesn't matter if that person doesn't accept it. It doesn't matter if that person challenges it. It doesn't matter, because I'm being able to give myself what I need before I'm expecting it from others. So even when we go into work settings, like even when we go into like conversations like this, instead of me leaving all of the diagnosis at the door, I'm like, okay, I'll introduce myself and it's part of me now. Like I feel very comfortable taking on that narrative, because I need to own that narrative. Like for so long it's owned me, and now I want to take back control, and I want to be able to talk about it in a way that makes me feel comfortable and me to feel like calm in it. So yeah, that's my biggest thing for anyone, in terms of if you're going through something, or you've experienced anything that has altered the way that you think, feel, or navigate life now, because we all have trauma. Like I challenge you to take back control of that narrative, and instead of you stigmatizing it and making it into a negative thing, how can you kind of flip the narrative and actually understand that sometimes your weaknesses are your greatest strengths. Like my superpower is definitely my mental illnesses, because it's made me super compassionate. That's why I love the work that I do, but it's also made me super hyper aware and super confident, because I'm like, if I don't back it, no one else can. So I'm really proud of that. And then when you ask what do I do to support myself now, I feel like it's constantly navigating what works in what season. I'm very open that I'm on medication, so that was a big thing that really helped me. And I think for a long time I was like, oh, like if I go on meds, like I'm definitely mad. And I don't mind using that word, because even I was speaking about myself like this. I was like, damn, if I go on meds, this is it now. Like I'm going to be in and out of the primary care system, and I'm going to be on wards my whole life. If they put me on meds, I'm done. Because the whole idea is, when we see people in our community, they are hyper represented in sectioned wards. Like it is crazy, especially when we think about how stigmatized it is in our community and stuff. And when we think about how many people that look like us in the population in this country, and then to see how many of us are actually represented on wards, it's really scary. And I think it's because people just assume that there's nothing else that can be done for you. There's so much more. And I think that's what I realized. So as much as I'm on medication, that's not the only thing that I do. Another thing that I do, and I'm a huge advocate of it, is therapy. I was in therapy for a good year and a half, as in non-stop, because I was like, there's some things that we're going to need to deal with. And I think it was the first time I was like, I'd been through therapy since I was like 11 or whatever. But I think when I did it again during COVID, I was like, no, this is the first time I want to be like as open as possible. Because even with like therapy as well, there's like part of you that might not want to open up or share. And I know I'm not the only person that's, said that, because even with my therapist, and obviously I'm a practitioner now and all of those things, I know that even in the back of your head, you're like, yikes, should I have said that? And part of like BPD is like, oh, did I overshare? Like maybe I said a bit too much. This was the first time I was like, okay, I'm gonna just leave it all there, because if not now, when am I ever gonna do it? Like, and obviously we're getting older, you're gonna want to start a family soon, all of those stuff. Like, and I was like, okay, cool, I just want to be as open as possible. Like it's gonna make me feel really uncomfortable, but I need to unpack all of this baggage, because if I don't, where am I gonna go? And then I would say the last two is definitely, I became a Christian in 2018, and I think my relationship with God and scripture has transformed my life. And I remember my university fellowship, the first time that I like delivered a sermon or whatever, like God really spoke to me, and he was just like, I really want you to deliver a sermon all around mental illness, all around mental health as a Christian. And one of the things that like God like gave on my heart was something called CBT, but cognitive Bible therapy. So utilizing, I know, I was like, bro, I said, damn, God, you're really working through me. This one's good. And I remember the idea of a lot of these words, things around like fear, sadness, disappointment, anxiety, depression, you can count how many times they are in the Bible. They show up so many times. And it is wrong for us to assume that mental health or mental illness doesn't exist, because it's actually spoken about so many times in scripture. How can we use, and this is what I try to push in all the kind of support that I do for people and all the projects that I run, is how can we utilize what people find as safety to support them? And as a Christian, obviously reading scripture if you can meditate on the word and you're able to reflect on that and it literally meets you where you are, then you're almost self-counseling. So where you might have been opposed or agnostic towards going into therapy, you can self-counsel at home with the tools that you have, which for that reason is scripture. So for me, I do that all the time. Anytime I'm like, I will literally, obviously on the Bible app, it's great. I will literally be like anxiety. I will talk about things that are in my life, because why do I need to create something new when it's already there, you know? So that's the third one. And I would say the last one is really around leaning on support network. I really struggle to ask for help. Like, I'm hyper independent. And as much as I were like, yeah, that's great, like this person is independent, it's not. It's the worst thing for me. I think it's my greatest weakness, because actually there's so many people around you that would want to support you. And I think it is related to childhood trauma of having to deal with a lot of things by myself. So for me, like, I will challenge myself to reach out to my friends, and like they all know now. And I think something that really helped me open up about my mental health was using a score. So I do it even with our teams at work and stuff like that. But I think talking about my feelings and my mental health on the day in numbers really helped. So I would do this thing with my family, my immediate family. So it was my mom, my brother, my dad and stuff at the beginning. And we'd just go, how's Meg doing today on a scale of 1 to 10? And obviously if I'm a 2 or a 1, we know like I'm not in a really good place, and if I'm a 10, it's great, and we're able to track it. So I started doing that, and then I started doing it with my friends, and it became this thing that I became so much more open. So instead of it being like, imagine I was coming today and I was definitely a solid 2, and you're like, yeah, how are you doing? I'm like, yeah, good. And you see that I'm like late or whatever, and I'm making up excuses. Now we can just be very open, and I could be like, okay, Daniel, I'm running late, I'm feeling like a 2 out of 10 today, I'm gonna be there, but it's a little bit difficult, I'm feeling a bit panicky, but I'll be there, because it's opened up conversation in a way that's safe. So that honestly, talking about my mental health in my form score, and that mental health form score had given me back that confidence to reach out, because it allowed people to be like, they could see where I was and ask questions and prompt, but equally I can go into as much detail as possible, because I feel like they actually understand. Like, a number, you can clearly see when someone says a word, it can be misconstrued, or what does that mean to that person? At least a number is really blunt, and you ask, okay, why do you feel like a 5 today, or why do you feel like a 7 today? You can go into it. So I feel like those 4 major things really transform my life, and like I continuously use now. And journaling. Like yesterday, thinking about today, I was journaling. I was like, gosh, I haven't done this in a while. I literally made myself some tea, turned the diffuser on, put some scent on. I had some worship music in the background, all on instrumental, and I journaled for like 3 hours. And I think it was so necessary. Sometimes we're constantly looking for other people to talk to, when sometimes we just need to talk to ourselves. And I was really journaling. I was like, Meg, like, if you can't talk to other people, at least talk to yourself. And that's what really helped me the first time that I got diagnosed. I was like, okay, we're going to track all of these things, and journaling is free. You can journal on your phone, you can video journal, you can voice record, like you find a way that suits you. And I definitely used to do monthly video logs. If I can't find the strength to really talk at the moment, I can't do that. So I'll use my pen and paper. And then at other times I'll go for walks, and I love having AirPods, because no one knows that you're talking to yourself. I would go for walks in my local park with my headphones in, and I'm video and voice noting myself, as in a diary entry, or if you want to call it a journal, and no one would know. They might think I'm on the phone, and it's literally me taking dedicated time to talk out loud. You know, was it at work we were talking about this? Do you know when you live by yourself, or like when you're at home alone, you can go hours without saying a word, as in at all. Like you're in your head so much. So this is why it's super important to find ways to offload and outlet, because why are you dealing with all of that in your head? I didn't realize it. You can go hours, as in like 12 hours, and you haven't muttered a word. If you're not on any calls or anything, as in you'll sit in silence. That's
actually mad when you think about it.
Yeah, because I didn't think it when I heard it, and I was like, wow, oh my goodness. So yeah.
You know what? Going back to what you said about this is like probably like 15 minutes ago when you spoke about people not understanding you. Like, it's interesting, because like the reality is no one's actually really gonna truly understand you, innit?
No.
And yet we can sometimes like put so much expectation on other people, and the sad truth is that people might not be able to help us, and so it's like, what can we say to them that they can help us with? Maybe there's a few things that they can help us with. Sometimes we might regret it, like you said.
Yeah.
Shouldn't have said that. But the one person that understands you most, you avoid, and that's yourself.
Exactly.
Like, so spending time with yourself, not only is it safer, but also it allows you to reflect. You know yourself. No one can understand you more than yourself, and obviously God, but you too, innit? And so like, it's so important to spend time with yourself, because like I said, when people push on, sometimes it's just a facade.
Yeah.
It hurts. It's so hard to really just speak with yourself, because you can't lie to yourself.
No.
You know yourself. Like, you can't guess it.
Exactly.
Like, you know who you are in it, and so it's so important to just take that time out to really just reflect and just be real. Honestly, be real, and that's what you be doing. And I'm not surprised that you're going on walks talking to yourself, because like, it's needed. Sometimes do
you
that,
do,
innit?
and
like,
I don't feel any type of way about this.
Yeah.
And I actually also just talk to myself down the street.
Listen,
Obviously,
who doesn't?
that doesn't
Like,
mean I
listen.
should be sections, but it is definitely super important.
listen,
and I don't
talk
know
to
why people
myself
don't
too,
do it
I'm not
enough.
gonna lie, I do it, man.
You've
If there's
got
cameras
to.
in the toilet, if you see me by the mirror, hey, it's finished. I'm there hyping up to
Literally
myself.
looking at yourself.
Even
Exactly.
when I wake up, I'm just lying down, just reflecting and talking to myself here and there. Like, sometimes I'm so deep in my mind, that I'm talking out loud and I don't even know.
Yeah, no, it happens, and you're
And
like,
it
oh my
happens.
goodness. But yeah, talking to yourself is so important, and I
Yeah.
think one thing that I'm learning to do a lot more, and I have been over this last year, is being like a friend to myself. Like, I think it's a really tough pill to swallow,
Yeah.
and I definitely had this, but yeah, I have very high expectations, and like I think we all do, because if you are that type of friend, that type of sister, that type of partner to someone else, you'd expect them to do the same. Like, don't expect people to love the same way that you love. Don't expect people to care the same way that you care. And it irritates me, because I got such a big heart that like when people fall short, I'm fuming. I'm like,
Yeah.
why?
But you know, that's how it is sometimes. It's like, even if you take it out and put in another context, you might be willing to do way more for people than they'll be willing to do for you.
And it sucks. Let's
And it
be
sucks,
real.
yeah.
No one talks about it, because I hate this whole thing of being the bigger person. But it really does suck. It
like,
really hurts.
It really wants you to switch, like,
Yeah, because
be
you're
someone
like,
you're not.
wow. And like, I think it really challenges you to want to change and adapt.
Yeah.
As in, like, where you're like, okay, cool, I'm gonna move cold. I'm gonna move.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Well,
not
that's
gonna do that for
dangerous, man.
people. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I've had to keep reminding myself that it's okay. Like, you've got to be compassionate and you've got to meet people where they are. But ultimately, where you feel like other people like, do that for yourself. You cannot expect other people to do things that you can't even do for yourself. Like, if you are expecting to be validated by other people, validate yourself first. If you're expecting people to compliment you, as in like even just saying, you know what, you look good today, you can't even do that for yourself. You cannot expect others. In the same way that if you're expecting people to give you time, give yourself time as well. Like, yesterday, I was shocked. I said, God's really talking to me today. I was like, okay, I need, like, you know, there's people that I need to be spending quality time with and blah, blah, blah. I need support at the moment. I feel like no one's really reaching out and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I felt like he was saying to me, Meg, have you even given yourself the time? Like, have you even allowed yourself to be present? Like, have you done what you expect for others? Like, have you sat down and given yourself time to be heard for yourself, not waiting for other people to? And the answer was no. And the answer for a lot of people is you're expecting other people to do things that you wouldn't even do for yourself. And you need to flip it. It needs to be to the point where you are so full because you do those things that even if someone did it 1,000 times, it would be never enough because you already do that for yourself.
Facts. Like, yeah, we really can't rely on other people, innit?
And it's not a bad thing,
It's not a bad
It's
thing.
really not a
just
bad
the truth.
thing.
And you shouldn't change as well.
No.
Like, you should still be yourself. Don't go cold now. You going all out, that just makes you you.
Yeah.
Like, don't switch it up. And it's about realizing that you're different. And people are not going to do the same things you would do.
No.
And that's okay. And it's just being real with yourself. Of course, you'll still feel a type of way, but you should try your best to get out of being upset with that. Because like you said, you've got a duty to yourself first. And if you are telling yourself those things, if you're spending time with yourself and with God, you won't really be so dependent on other people.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you would have filled up your own battery without needing someone else to tell you something nice about yourself. Do you get what I mean? So it's so important that you spend time with yourself, innit? Obviously not so
completely,
much, not completely.
yeah, no, because you're not supposed to be by yourself.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be surrounded by community, but having that balance.
Have a check-in, innit?
Yeah.
What I will say, this is a loaded question. You can say it briefly if you want, but like, so how would you? Now this is not rhetorical. So how would you say someone can? But no, how did you redefine vulnerability into strength? Because it could be many things in it. So that's why it's loaded. So like, just try your best to sum up maybe.
I think sharing my story.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing was definitely sharing my story. I think the first time I decided to be really open was like just before I think I founded Mindmapper. We used to be called My Mum Matters Too. It was literally just a campaign I started in my first year of uni. And I remember World Mental Health Day. That was like, I just felt the spirit was like, you better write a post today. You're gonna share. And I just want to offer a trigger warning, because I know if anyone hears this and they're going through a really hard time, then this is probably not the thing that you want to hear. But I remember the day of my 20th birthday, I tried to take my life, and I shouldn't be here, and obviously am here. And it was a completely shifting period in my life where it was like, I think a lot of people knew that I was struggling, but they didn't know. And even for me as well, until it got to that point, I was like, I know I'm not good, but wow, like I don't even think I'm going to make it to my 21st birthday, really and truly. So I was like, gosh. And when I decided to share the year later, the day that I'd gone out on my birthday, like my friends had taken me out in the morning, they brought a camera, so they'd taken pictures, and you can see how sad I look. And you know, when you see the celebrities and you're like, one day before they, you know, obviously attempted their life, another day since they for me, that picture on that day was one of those, like, I look happy, but I look sad at the same time. I remember posting it and saying like, this was the day that I obviously went to hospital, and so many people were shocked because they were like, Meg? Nah, it couldn't be. Like, there's no way. Like, you're talking about Meg. And I was like, yeah, it was me. And by being really open and vulnerable, I've never seen my community and those around me, even people I went to school with years ago, share. People's parents were messaging me, sharing. And then after sharing that, that's when I obviously had the Guardian article, went on TV, all of that stuff. And I think that's when I started redefining, because I said, I've held this in for 7 years, you know. If I don't talk about this, I'm going to keep going into these cycles of putting on a mask. It's just hard enough, you know, when you're going through something to go through it, to then have to leave your house and pretend you're okay. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. Like,
sometimes, let's say for example, if you didn't say anything, in your mind, you're being threatened that, oh, someone might find out.
Yes.
Someone might find out. This is going to happen if someone finds out. But you've kind of like flipped it. I'm actually going to speak about it.
I'm going to speak about it.
So no one can call me up, and I've chosen to speak about it.
100%.
And that's it. Now, the only about you might think to yourself is, oh, did I overshare? Are you going to judge me?
Exactly.
Do you get what I mean? But you have more control of it now. It's like you've had your own stamp in it. Like, no one can use that against you, because I've said it and I own it.
Exactly.
And that shaped me.
Exactly. And I think the biggest bit of redefining vulnerability strength for me is a fear, actually. I remember one of my mentors had said, like, I think we were having this conversation. He was talking around, like, obviously getting yourself in check. Like, basically part of your podcast around the inner work, like you as an individual, not the accolades and stuff. And I remember saying, like, my biggest fear is to be a public success but a private failure. So people see the good, the shiny, but internally when the doors close, you're falling apart. Like, you've got no routine, you're not character assessing yourself, you're not building those things, you're not doing that inner work. And that's why I had to be open, because I was just like, on the surface, everyone's just going to think that things come easy, and they're not. There's a whole testimony, and obviously call it what it was, but it was a testimony. And that's the key thing that shaped me. And then the other thing that allowed me to transform that, you know, vulnerability in strength, is teach others. You know, what we're doing now, sharing the story, but also teach others. Like, all of the things that you've acquired over the years can help someone else. And when Mindmapper fully transformed from being obviously this campaign, and then it was a research and development company, and now as an education provider, like, my biggest thing was I really felt that was so much strength in education. One of the main reasons that, you know, a lot of our young people don't know what to do is because they don't know how to manage these things. They don't have the right language or literacy around, you know, personal development, growth, financial literacy, you know, emotional well-being, the physiology of your brain, like the neurology around your hormones and how to manage all your feelings. And I was like, if they did, knowledge is power, knowledge is wisdom. Like as soon as they know that, they know what to do in the future. So I really wanted to be able to provide people with tools, and it's what I did. The more I researched about what was going on, having that knowledge transformed my life. So why wouldn't I want to pass on that knowledge to other people? Even for me, I'm going to listen to this back because I'm like, gosh, even I need to hear some of these things. Like, it's super important.
Speaking of facts, man, like, yo.
I guess let me flip it to you. What does vulnerability mean to you? Because, you know, I use that a lot, but what does it mean to you?
To me, it's like allowing what's inside, like your fears, your insecurities, your challenges to be seen by other people. So, like, being exposed.
Wow, okay.
So being exposed, you can't hide it.
Yeah.
Because it's there.
Yeah.
Like, so when you have that vulnerability, you've only got one choice now. Do I try to deny it or do I own it?
Ooh.
And what you're doing now, you're owning it, innit? Like, this is what happened. It's still happening, but I'm fighting it.
Yeah.
This doesn't define me. I define my story, innit?
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, you are not your condition. You're making it.
Yeah. And that was one thing I really had to learn. I was like, you know, you're more than just this thing.
Yeah. And I'm happy that your life is speaking for itself, innit? Like, because what you're doing is something that is so hard, innit? And of course, maybe you're like, oh yeah, but it is what it's something that you've been doing for a long time. It's tedious and tiring, but it's important for you to know as well the impact you're having on people's lives, innit?
Yeah.
They might not tell you. Even me just speaking to you right now, hey, I'm reignited. Like, I'm actually excited. Like, so you're doing these things for a reason, innit? And it's not easy. People are gonna go through different challenges in life. You don't pick how your life pans out, the stuff that you go through, innit?
Yeah.
But what you're doing is you're deciding how your life kind of ends in a way, like, or how it goes. You're deciding it. So a situation doesn't have to define you, innit? You define it.
Yeah.
And that's what you've been doing. So yeah, for me, vulnerability is all about exposure, innit? Sometimes it's a bit scary. It always is scary.
It is. You're thinking,
it's always scary.
Yeah,
what?
no, it really is.
It is. Even for me personally, I'll be real. Sometimes I'm a bit hiding on the camera. Like, maybe soon you're gonna see me speaking one-to-one on the camera, innit?
Because you
maybe
need
I'm just
to.
asking you questions, innit? So even you ask me a question, I'm like, rah, is this how it feels to get asked a question?
Yeah.
actually put the pressure, like, because I'm just so used to asking people questions, innit? And so maybe for me, if I'm real, maybe when I feel like something's about to get asked towards me, I'm already thinking of another question to ask you.
I'm dead. So again, like, you've also just challenged your vulnerability now to be really open. How did it make you feel?
No, I felt good, man. Like, obviously, sometimes you got to be in the right environment where you feel like it's safe and that. But again, it's like, is the information I'm about to say going to be used against me? Because that's why I say with people, you don't have to say everything, but you can choose a part that you don't mind being used against you. Yeah. And even if that means that you tell something that was valuable and they've used it against you, but you don't care about it, then that's fine. As long as you're proud, like, cool, yeah, all right. If they chose to make fun out of me because of my condition or a mistake I made, that's up to them, innit? Yeah. But I'm not upset about it.
No.
I own it.
Yeah, no, I mean? And that's I think that's the key. That's the key, like, part, and that's definitely the key takeaway. And I think the other thing that you have to rest on is think about what you can control. Like, I can control what I say. I can control how I feel in this moment. I can control how I talk about these things. What I can't control is how other people are going to react. And the more that you understand that, the easier it becomes to be 100%. Vulnerable.
Like, you can't.
I don't know how you're going to react with me saying this. I don't know how everyone's going to react.
But it's like not caring as well.
But I'm also like, you know, life is so tough. Life is really stressful and all of that stuff. And, like, you know, it's hard enough having to process it yourself. Now I'm gonna have to worry about and safeguard other people's feelings. You just have to get over it. Yeah, you're just like, you know what? I can't actually control that. So I just have to let it go. And that's how I think about quite a lot of things now, is just, what can I control? Let's be logical
100%.
and rational about this. And if I can't control it, I guess I can't control it. Let's just keep it moving.
It's about focusing on what you control. That's what you can't control, innit? And not caring as well. Like, there's a book I read, what's it called? 100. Basically about not giving an F, basically. But ultimately, I forgot the title.
100 Reasons Not to Give Up.
Yeah. And ultimately, it's about caring less about the things that are not important to you.
Yeah.
And only choosing to care about a few things. So care about yourself, care about those that are closest to you. But beyond that, stop caring. Because the more you care, the more overwhelming it's going to be. You shouldn't care about what my man in another, let's say, country thinks about you, that's never met you, that's judging you. Like, there's nothing you can do, because ultimately you're leaving your sort of happiness in their hands. They can say one thing and now that's going to trigger you, innit? So to an extent, like, do your best to care less. It's hard, I'm not going to say it's easy, but I think that's what is very important, because let's be real, we can care about so many things if we overthink. And so it's a choice to an extent, but you got to try. All I'm happy is if people fighting it. Like, just try your best in it. And sometimes your fight might be harder than other people, but then again, it's subjective, innit? So have that internal vision, because when you start comparing yourself to other people, like you said before,
thief
you might
of
think
joy.
to yourself, it's the thief of joy. And oh gosh, but they don't go through this. Like, your story is your story, innit?
Yeah.
And just go back to that internal focus. Where was you before? Where are you now? Are you progressing? Yes or no? Forget about my man or her. Like, it's irrelevant, isn't it?
Yeah, it's about
when you do that, again, like you said, it's the thief of joy. So just focus on yourself.
Tunnel vision. Yeah, so no, you're so right.
That's what that reflective mode does to you. Like you said, spending time with yourself. It takes your focus away from other people and back to yourself.
Absolutely.
So I
might drop. Sorry.
Listen. This is why I don't speak. I hear you, man. So, like, for me, my question is, what made you go from going through these struggles to decide about talking about? I know you summed up briefly as well, but like, if you were to say the main reason for that was, like, what would that be?
I think for me, it was just like, you constantly want change. And this is for everyone. Anything that you're passionate around and anything that you see in the world that you're like, gosh, like, if you are really passionate about something and you want change, you can't expect other people to do it. Like, I got to the point where I was like, I can see there's issues. I feel like I know how I would fix it.
Yep.
I'm constantly challenging it, criticizing. And then what? We're complainers now? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah.
And I said, instead of waiting for other people to be the change that I want to see, I've got to be the change that I want to see.
Jeez.
And instead of waiting for other people to start things, do something. Like, just, if you can see it, then do it. Like, really and truly do it. It's the same way, like, if this was falling off, I'm not gonna wait for you to do it. I'm gonna pick up the phone and put it back on the table. So if I can see that there is a change for me, it was really around mental health education. I could see that schools are struggling. They don't have the resources, they don't have the innovation that they need, and they also don't have the time. Let me create something for it. Let's just test it. Like, I'm definitely one of those people who I'm just like, test it. I've been that way since a kid. Maybe because I wanted to be an astronaut at the beginning. Like, physics was my life. Yeah, me and my brother, we created a laboratory in our shed at home. Wow. Yeah. We were so set. Like, I was the original women in STEM before STEM became sexy now, and everyone is doing software engineering. But at the beginning, oh my goodness, I wanted to build a rocket. Like, me and my brother were set on it. Like, we had lab coats, all of it. We were so serious. You know, Dexter's laboratory. Yeah, that's the thing that set it off.
Right.
Absolutely crackheads, but it was perfect. And my thing is, I've always been curious. I've always been that person. Like, I feel like God has always put something on my chest to be like, you are a confident person, you need to speak for others. And I could see, like, if I was struggling, you know, I had psychosis, I was paranoid, I was suicidal, all of those things. But if I was actively looking for support, what about all the people that are not? What about all the people who literally have no voice or no direction, no support network to lean on? So I was like, we need to do stuff for those people. The people that are voiceless, we need to become that voice. I didn't set out to have a business at all. That was never the thing. I didn't sit down and go, business plan, let's, like, business model canvas, let's go for it. We're going to raise investment, we're going to build this product. No, it was, we need to do something. Let's just talk about it. And it was just through talking and, you know, creating a platform for others to be heard, that it morphed and developed into what it is now. So I think that's what changed.
No, it's beautiful to hear, man, honestly. Saying that, one thing I would also say, it's also about realising that you're still a human being, innit? And there's only so much that you can do. And not to now be so harsh on yourself if things aren't going the way you want to be, or things are taking time, because all you can do is think to yourself, what do I have in my possession? What tools do I have? And let me just use that to the best of my ability.
And who do I have?
And who do I have in it?
Like, people assume that you have to do things by yourself. You don't. And I don't like this culture. I don't know if it's just us at the moment where people feel like they need to be founders of something. And like, someone can challenge me and say I'm a hypocrite. I didn't want to be one. I even asked my board at the beginning of when things were shaping and we were raising funds and stuff, I was like, please, do I have to be like the forefront of this? Like, I said, I'm happy to just be in the background. Like, I don't want my face to be part of it. And that's one of the big things for me. Like, I didn't want to be the forefront. Like, I don't mind sharing, but I didn't want to be the forefront. Obviously, God had a different reason for me. But it's okay to join what other people are doing. It's okay to add and be a builder. And that's exactly why I take other roles and, you know, being a consultant and all the other stuff that I do, is because I realize that my overall mission is I just want that young people have the tools that they need to thrive. And the other part is that it doesn't matter where you come from, that there's support there for you. And if that means that I'm building it at Mindmapper, if it means that I'm building it at Mind, if it means that I'm building it as an international speaker or where a content creator, the mission is still the mission. Like, I don't mind how it does. It doesn't need to be me. It just needs to be someone. That was my whole thing.
You're focused on your work.
Yeah.
Not the fame.
Like, and this is what keeps me up at night. Every now and then, like, when I want to give up, I'm like, we've not done enough yet. We can't give up. And like, as much as I want to like close down shop or things every now and then, I'm like, there's so many other kids that need this. Like, there's so many other people. Like, we've only like, so the UK and like some of the other countries we work on. But what about some of those other places, the places that are not in the EU, the places that are not in America? Like, what about back home? What about the Africas and the Caribbeans? And what about South America? All of these places that often don't get the resources. And again, with culture stigmatized, they need us too. So it's really annoying because I'm like, yeah, but even when I feel like I don't have the fight in me, how can you stop?
Yeah.
If I stop, who else is going to do it? And I think that's the thing. Like, you have to think about yourself. And I think if you're listening to this somewhere and you're like, you've got this burning desire to do something, start today. It doesn't need to be massive. Just start today. It could be a podcast. It could be that you put a post out. It could be that you donate to your local charity, you volunteer. It could be that you create an event, just something. If there's something that you look at in the world and you think it breaks your heart and you want to do something to change it, just do one little thing. The more that you do those little things, the more it turns into this big thing that can have an impact. And I think that's the motto that I live by. If I can just help one person, then we're doing our job.
Wow. I don't have enough mics to drop at you, but I don't have enough mics to drop at you. Wow. I'm just soaking all of that in. Okay. Don't even need to talk on top of that. That was perfect. But, okay, my next question is, what keeps you going until this day?
Younger me.
Younger you, yeah?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
So when I look at 13-year-old Meg, who didn't even think that she'd make it to her 16th or like 18th birthday, I think this year I was like, damn, like, you've come a long way, Meg, you know? Like, we didn't really think we'd be here, and we're here. And like, as tough as days are, like, wow, like, you're actually here. Like, she would be so proud of you. Like, she didn't even think that this would be a possibility, that, you know, I could be open enough to talk about what's going through, that I can get the support that I need, that I'd have the family around me where we're openly talking about it, that, you know, even from an ED perspective, like, the fact that I get to like wear what I want to do, like, I don't even, you know, I don't calorie count, I don't really care about my weight at the moment. This is the first time in flipping years, like, I mean, decades, that I've ever just been like, you know what, like, the gym's there, I don't know her, like, I was saying it with my friends, I was like, gym who, like, I don't know her at the moment. Like, I went from being, it's around getting that balance, but there's no expectation. Like, I'll be going back obviously March, the 1st of March for me is the 1st of Jan 2023.
Okay,
like, we go again. But there's no pressure around it. It's because I want to, and I've got enough energy, and because I sit down in the daytime, I want to do it. So the thing that really keeps me going is younger Meg, because she needed someone like me. She really did. Like, there wasn't someone that looked like me that had anorexia or, you know, had depression or anxiety. Like it wasn't known. Like even the people that you see, the fact that we work in this space, like you'll never ever get a practitioner that looks like you that you can talk to. So instead of waiting for other people to be that, I was like, I need to do it for myself, because if there's just one young person, one younger Meg that can see me and is really struggling right now and can see that things do get better, and honestly, like this too shall pass, and actually you can use this as like your greatest strength, then I'm doing my job. Like really and truly, that's the thing that keeps me going.
So it's so important to remember why you're doing it. Yeah. Because you can easily forget. Because you're going to go through those moments where you're doubting yourself again, getting scared, etc. Yeah. Even disregarding everything that you've done till this day.
All the time I do. Yeah, everyone does it. You do it. Yeah. Everyone at home does it. Like we always.
Yeah, and it's a repetitive cycle. Yeah. But what keeps you going is once you realise why you're doing it again, innit? That kind of just like puts you at ease again. So thank you again for doing that work, man. Like you need more round of applauses, because like, you're doing a lot. You're doing a lot. But obviously you're not doing it for that. No. And it's important that you're not doing it for that as well, because you're not relying on that. So when it's not there, you're going to keep going. Yeah. Yeah? That doesn't define you. So just keep pushing, man. Like, hey, I'm just amazed. I'm amazed. You're a shining star, and your life is truly being used to other people. And you're just being a vessel, man. You're being a vessel. You're using everything within you. Like, do you know how mad that is? Like, you're a superhero, you know? Deeply, you're actually
not all of them wear capes. Some of them wear a yellow, an orange bright jacket.
I know fancy in that though. Yeah, no. I have nothing that's orange, by the way. I can't lie. But one day I might try that.
Oh, I had nothing before, but it was Chris Brown. Like this day, when I went to watch Chris Brown, I know he's controversial, but I went to watch Chris Brown. That day, I said, "I'm that girl." I said, "Wow, like I'm actually that girl." And I said, sometimes you actually have to take a step back and gash yourself, because if you don't, no one else will. And on that day I said, oh my goodness, like I used to dream, like, you know, as a younger girl, like you'd see other people and you want to aspire to be them. That day I was like, you're a badders, like, oh my goodness, like this, like the confidence, like being able to enjoy it, to be surrounded by actual sisters and girlfriends that you really love, and like being able to do this really independently and, you know, feel comfortable in your own skin and embrace that. Yeah, like full circle moment. Like it might, again, like I say, it's not the Forbes 30 under 30. It's not I've not got that knighthood or whatever. That's not the goal. That's not the ending.
But you know what? You could be looking so on point, so beautiful, so whatever, and people still won't say nothing. No. That's what's so mad. So that's why you got to gas yourself regardless, because like even with what you're doing for work, you could be doing everything and no one would still say anything to you. You might not get the validation.
You have to validate yourself.
To know.
You have to validate yourself.
Validation already.
Just a small, like you said, if you look at yourself in the mirror, like, oh, I'm proud of you today. Like, how many times do you actually say those things? Like, I have to remind myself, like, especially in those times and those seasons, because self-esteem will always fluctuate and imposter syndrome is a real thing. And even now, like, we're talking about this, but I don't feel like I'm doing anything. Like my friends, my inner circle, my mentors and like managers and stuff, they, you know, I'm very open about the fact I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I feel very stagnant at the moment. Like I'm like, bruh, is this it? And it's not because of, it's kind of what I was saying to you earlier. Like I feel like I'm constantly comparing myself to the hungry Meg when she first started, where things, you know, the instant gratification of we're growing and things, like there's nothing harder to remain consistency when there's not a lot of progress.
Consistency is one of the hardest things.
When there doesn't seem like there's as much progress. It's the same in the gym when you don't see like the gains, you're not seeing like as much changes. It's then when you have to be even more consistent and where you have to put so much more. So like this is my season of it's okay to build in silence and it's okay to build in the dark. Like my thing that I'm trying to get away from is just because it's not announced or just because I'm not sharing it doesn't mean the work's not being done. And being comfortable with that. It's kind of what you said, like if there's 1 view, 10 views or whatever, like are you still doing the work? Because if you're doing that for other people, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. I just have to remain grounded and keep building and be like, okay, there's a good thing that I don't think that we're doing enough, because that's going to reignite me to go again. Let's go again. You know, let's times it by 10. Let's 10x it. Like, okay, we've done that. Let's go again. Let's do more. And that's what keeps it going. Otherwise, you're just never going to move.
It takes a lifetime for you to achieve all the things you want to achieve. It's not going to happen within a few years.
But for me, I want my whole life to happen.
Just done, innit?
But in 10 years, in 5 years, the trajectory that I had in my head was to happen in that short amount of time.
But you know, most of life is just maintenance.
Yeah.
And consistency, yeah. As time goes by, before you know, opportunities might come, you might come with a new idea, and then you execute. But a lot of it is maintenance, innit? And that maintenance, that consistency is also the difficulty, because you got to be consistent despite the new challenges that come on in life.
Yeah.
Despite how you feel, like, you still got to keep going on. And maybe the pressure, maybe the expectation, whatever it is, consistency is so hard, and like it teaches you discipline in it, and so all of that's character building. So even though you might feel as though things are not really changing so much, like, you're still being refined, man. Like,
exactly.
Honestly, you're being refined. So don't be too harsh on yourself. Like, take each day at a time and just keep pushing, man. Like, that's what you got to do. Don't be so harsh. Like, you got time in it. You got time.
I know. Say it again. No, say it again.
You got time. You got time.
We can't hear it.
You got time, man. You got time. Like, you've done a lot already. And think about, our mind is so hyperactive, in it. It will think when it needs to. It will give you that idea when it needs to. That idea will come so quickly if it needs to be done, in it. And sometimes you might have an idea already, but you can't do it yet. Just wait. Sometimes it's about timing. Back to the seasons again.
Exactly.
Innit? Maybe it's not the season for that to happen, innit?
Exactly.
But being content about where you are now, innit? And you can only be content if you can focus on yourself. If you're focusing on other people, you're not going to get that satisfaction.
No.
So that's why I always recommend, just for people to spend time with themselves. That's why I feel like during lockdown, a lot of people really just like found out about themselves. Like, right, I'm actually a cool guy, or no, I need to find out. Like,
literally.
Daniel, I ain't spoken to you in a long time.
Like, that's when you're forced to turn your whole life inside out. Like, really inside out. You know, like the way you turn like trousers inside out and you see the seams. Yeah, COVID forced us all to do that.
People start saying, oh, right, like, I forgot my family, like, because they've been spending time
everywhere else. Yeah.
So, Mindmapper, all right? You've kind of spoken a bit about it already, but I want to know what made you do it briefly again, and what your vision is.
Oh, God. Okay, great. So Mindmapper is a global mental health education company, and we provide programs and training and curriculum.
This is the founder of Mindmapper UK. Come on. All right. Tell us. Tell us.
As I mentioned, we're a global education training provider. So we basically create a curriculum all around mental health and wellbeing for young people across the world. So whether you are in a school or university, or you are just starting your career, we have a whole curriculum that allows you to have the tools that you need to live a mentally healthy life. And the reason I started it was because I remember being at uni and struggling during that transition. Like, as a young person, you go through lots of different transitions, and I don't think you have the tools that you need to manage those transitions internally. So this is not around having enough money to do the things, like, or having enough access to resources. It's more around actually mentally, are you in a good enough place to go through this? So one of the things I remember saying is, like, at 18 we make some of these really big life decisions around what career you want to have and and where you want to go, but most people at that age don't even know what it looks like to deal with stress or burnout. Like, so why are we doing that? Most people don't know what it looks like to have financial literacy, and, you know, to be financially, like, what's your financial well-being like, or understanding, you know, that it comes in different seasons, and, you know, personal development and growth, like all of these soft skills, which are actually hard skills, never get taught. So I was like, we're doing things so wrong. How can you expect these young people to know and make big decisions about their life and not equip them with the things that they need to be able to navigate those transitions and those big decisions? So that's why we created it. And I was like, great, you know, we can do more research. And I, you know, obviously I'm a researcher by background, like we created a report, you know, we were lobbying Parliament and all of those things, and it was great because obviously we're providing a level of expertise and resources. But what happens then? So you just do the research, and then what? So there was like that burning voice in my head that was like, great, we've done the research, you've also from the research understood what the recommendations are. You're recommending these things to the government. Could there be something that you could do? And that's why I was like, cool, let's go, let's just start creating programs. Like, I'd already done it as a student ambassador. I was a public speaker at that point. So I was like, why are we not going to do it? Like, let's just test and learn. It started off with creating events. So we'd have like the strip back series where, again, almost like a live chat show. I was like the Oprah at that point. I'd bring guests and we'd have those conversations. We'd have conferences and stuff like that. And then I said, we can go even further. So it came to me like a lot of these opportunities were inbound, like people had asked us. And I think the moment that I realized it shifted from being like the campaign was when universities would approach me and they were like, we want to work with you. I'm thinking, work with who? Like, to do what? I was completely oblivious. I promise you, like, the business world I was completely oblivious to entrepreneurship. And when the University of Cambridge approached me and they were like, we would really like you to support our student and staff well-being. And then when they'd asked, like, how much would this cost us? I said, what do you mean? Like, how much does this cost you? Like, what? And I said, damn. And I was like, oh, I'll get like a proposal sent to you and things like that. And then it happened for my university as well. And they used to want me to build all of these things. So I was like, damn, like there's something here if we're doing all of these things. And then when it came from 1 or 2 schools, it was just a matter of testing. And I said, okay, if it works really well this time, let's just replicate it. Built a team around it, got some money behind it and started charging. And, 4 years later, 5 years now, 5 years since I first started My Mum Matters Too, but officially 3 years since we became Mindmapper and started really taking things seriously. Yeah, we're in multiple different schools. We've impacted well over 10,000 young people directly, 50,000 people just in general. And it works. There's so many people that have gone through our programs that are at uni now, one of which now works for us, and they remember all the things that we've taught them and will express that they don't think they'd be where they are if it wasn't for the programs. That's that shift. Like, the fact that we can be even a little marker in someone's story is huge, because I remember the marker of my story, which was a teacher at school, B. She saved my life. She's my mum. Like, she's amazing. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be here today. She intervened. Like, she went above and beyond. And I say to our team, we just need to go above and beyond. Like, we want to over deliver, and that's what we do. You want to over deliver.
Hi, you've been over delivering, man, and you're talking about impact. You're making impact on a daily basis. How much do you want to do? Because like, when you say that you're not doing any, what? You're doing a lot. You're doing a lot. I hear it though, because obviously there's more to come through you, innit? But yeah, it just goes to show how much impact you've made already, innit? Yeah,
and I think the vision for us is obviously, like, in numbers, is to have like 1 million, to reach 1 million young people, to know that there's 1 million young people across the world that have been through a Mindmapper program and have access to mental health and well-being literacy and understand it in the same way that we know that they will understand sciences and English. Like, we want that. But I guess the other thing for me is to ensure that every young person, regardless of your background, has the tools that they need to live a mentally healthy life. That's it. One session, one coaching, one event, one program, that one thing that was been able to give them, because the storm's not always there, but you need to be able to have the tools that when it does arise, you know what to do. Like, these things, like, everyone knows how to keep physically healthy, but we don't know how to keep mentally healthy. Everyone knows we were kids, you're 5 a day. The fact that even, toddlers know that, but for your mental health, people don't know the same. I want it to be spoken about in exactly the same way as physical health, because it's the same.
So how do people like get involved or sign up, or is there
this is the shout out? I love it. So at the moment there's, I guess, like 2 major things. We need staff. Like, we are hiring. So if you are really passionate, you've been a support worker before, or you're a public speaker, a facilitator, or really passionate around mental health, you are a recent graduate or whatever, and you want to support young people, please just email in. Like, we've currently got some vacancies for roles and programs that need young people on the ground. I'm really proud that the team are all young people. That was something I really wanted to keep. So if you're young, please like, come and join the team. And then I guess the other one is like, I challenge you to start talking about your mental health. Like, I challenge everyone to start being more open around what they're going through, and to work as an active ambassador. Like, what the conversation needs is that domino effect. If just one person talks to one person, then another person talks to one person, and then it's that domino effect, that multiplier. That's all we need.
So you're on Instagram and...
We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on... Obviously, you can find us at www.mindmapperuk.com. We're on TikTok, all of that.
And Instagram,
LinkedIn.
is it at Mindmapper UK?
Yeah. Everything is at Mindmapper UK. And watch this space. We have an amazing youth festival coming up called, it's like the Glastonbury, but for mental health. So keep your eyes peeled.
Big.
Yeah.
And also, she is a public speaker as well. So,
if you want me to come and talk,
how can people book you?
It's the same. So I've got an amazing team that look after me, but you can find me at megzeenat@wamithi.com. I'm on Twitter. I'm on TikTok. I deleted Instagram for my own mental health because that one there, not for me. But yeah, you can find me on Facebook, and if you search me on Google, you can see some of my talks. Like if you want to find out more about what I say and a bit more detail about my story and my journey, then please let's get connected.
Yeah, it's well documented, guys. If you just type in her name, you'll find it. Very documented. So one of my last questions to you is, what advice do you have for people that may feel like giving up right now?
I think my biggest advice is that you are worthy and deserving of healing. You know, like if you're really, really in a bad place right now and you're struggling and you really don't see a way out, the first thing is acknowledging your own worth. And as much as it may seem difficult, you are worthy of support as well, and you are worthy of this next step. And I think the other thing is that you don't need to go through this alone. As much as it will feel like people don't care and your mind will tell you that you are in this alone, you really aren't. And there is so much support out there for you. The biggest thing is making the first step, but please do go visit your GP. If you want to and you don't want to speak to someone, find someone that you trust that can refer you. That one session can transform your life. And I think the other thing is journal. Before you feel more comfortable talking to other people, find your outlet, whether that is a pen and paper, whether that is in your notes on your phone, whether that is recording yourself once a month and doing a video where you talk to yourself, or whether that is going on walks like I do, just putting your headphones in and talking to yourself. Find your voice again. For whatever circumstances it is. I really had to, and I think that was my big thing on my healing journey. Even now is find your voice. Life and your circumstances will try and silence you, and it will make you feel like you can't talk about these things. But find your voice again. Find the things that bring you joy. Tap into yourself, and I promise you, it doesn't feel like it right now, but you will get through it. And as one of my really good friends, one of my best friends says, this too shall pass, and it really does.
Okay, cool. So my words to you now. This is not scripted. I'm just trying to fit right now because listen, man, got to speak from the heart in it.
I love this.
Honestly, thank you for coming on. You are a true inspiration. You're a living legend, and you're a great star. You're shining in it. Just because not everyone's seeing you doesn't mean you're not a star in it. Like I said, so just know that you are making an impact. You don't need other people to validate you. You're in your own battle with yourself in it. No one can be you in it. You're Meg, yeah? So don't worry about what other people are doing. Just focus on where you've come from and where you are now, and spend time with yourself to really acknowledge your achievements. So as much as reflecting, are you acknowledging your achievements? So writing down your achievements, writing down where you come from, the things that you're proud about yourself. Really rate yourself in it, because that's who you are in it. And yes, as we're speaking of resilience, I know you hate that word, but whether you like it or not, you are. I'm going to say it. You're resilient.
You basically said, I don't want to hear it. You are. Whether you want it or not.
Whether you want to hear it or not, you're a fighter. And you are going to go on to do greater things than what you're doing now, innit? That doesn't mean there's pressure. Obviously, the pressure is what you put in yourself, innit? But you are going to do those things, innit? And just allow yourself to do what you're doing in the present. Focus on the present, yeah? And take each day at a time. That's what I'll say to you, because you're a superstar, innit? Yeah? So keep doing what you're doing.
So
keep watering yourself. Keep growing. Keep elevating. Keep shining. Keep smiling. Keep rhyming.
I love it.
All right?
Cypher next.
Overflow. Yeah. But honestly, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Once again. All right? Finally, last words of encouragement for your brothers and sisters. Anything. This can be anything. So it can be related to what we said. It could be something completely random. What is on your heart that you would like to say?
just don't wait for other people to understand you and love you in the way that you deserve to be loved. Be that for yourself. That's the one thing that I'm trying to push this year, which is be prepared to show up for yourself even when others don't. And that's your biggest thing. You will never regret it. And there's nothing wrong with starting over again. If this is you and you're going through massive changes, I feel like 2023 is that for everyone, whether that is a breakup, whether that's different career, whether that's stuff to do with your family, whether that's that you've lost things. This is just your reminder that it's okay to start again. Starting again is actually a really good thing, and it's so much fun, and why not now?
Why not now? You heard it from the legend herself, innit? Please write down in the comments, innit? Let her know how you actually felt about it. Don't keep to yourself. Don't call me. Don't tell me all this stuff. Say it to her, innit? Yeah? All right, so thanks for coming on, yeah?
Thanks for having me.